Hello and welcome to today's video. So, there's some big Overwatch League news that just went down basically here on the internets. So, we've been talking about expansion teams for a while. We talked about Atlanta, Paris, Guangzhou, all teams like that. You know, rumored teams. But now there's more of an official thing here from ESPN of the teams that are in the Overwatch League. Now, there was the rumor of Melbourne being a team, but apparently that didn't happen. So, the teams that they are: Atlanta, Vancouver, Toronto, Washington, D.C., Paris, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, or Hangzhou, and Chengdu. Either way, they added 8 new teams and not 6 new teams. So there's 20 teams in the Overwatch League now. So they went from 12 to 20. So obviously we knew Atlanta, Toronto, Paris, Guangzhou. And Melbourne was supposed to be in there, but apparently that didn't happen. So they added 2 more Chinese teams along with Guangzhou. So there's now 4 teams in China. Hangzhou, Hangzhou, and Chengdu, Chengdu. So, those 2 teams in Washington, D.C. all got sort of announced today. Oh, and Vancouver. So there's like 4 new teams today. So, then this sort of just talks about other teams. But, let's see. The Chengdu team is owned by a Chinese streaming thing. And then Vancouver team is owned by the Canucks, which is a hockey team. And I think it's kind of crazy that there are 20 teams instead of 18 like we thought there was going to be. There's one for Washington, D.C. and Hangzhou on here as well. Those are both 2 new teams. So, one of the Hangzhou team apparently is owned by, or going to be owned by, some Chinese website. And then the other one's by Mark Ian, who owns some Washington team. So, that's interesting. So, of course, all this... Oh, it says... however, ESPN report, which cites sources close to the league, also implies that 2 more teams might also be added to Season 2, increasing Blizzard's target number from 8 to 20, due to last-minute interest from a number of buyers. Slots are believed to be worth $30 to $60 million, depending on region. So, that's kind of crazy. So, my thoughts on the teams. I thought, I was really like, alright, Melbourne could be interesting. It's a different country in the list, but it's cool to see a second team in Canada. And you get one on both sides of Canada. Paris, obviously, we talked about before. Atlanta, we talked about. Guangzhou, we talked about. Washington, D.C., I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Washington, D.C. having a team. There's definitely other cities in America that could have been picked before Washington, D.C. They could have picked... I've been saying pick Seattle the whole time. But obviously it's not just like Blizzard saying we want a team here. It's investors from the areas. But I don't know. Washington, D.C. That's interesting. So let's see. How many countries' capitals are teams? Because Washington, D.C. is the capital of America. So Seoul's the capital of South Korea. London's the capital of England. Isn't Paris the capital of France, right? Yeah. Some countries, the big city isn't necessarily the capital. But I believe Paris is. I don't know what the capital of China is. Is it Beijing? Isn't Beijing the capital of China? I don't know why I said that. I think Beijing's the capital, right? Yeah. It is the capital of China. So, teams that, or places that are capitals that have Paris, Seoul, London, and Washington, D.C. Wait, what about, what's the capital of Canada? I don't know the capitals of cities, or countries. Capital of Canada. Ottawa? Boy. Interesting. Alright, back to Overwatch League though. So Atlanta, Washington D.C., Toronto, Vancouver, Paris, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, and Chengdu are all the hosts. They're all the teams now. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams become. Of course, there will be 8 new teams. That means there's 8 new logos. And what's the whole name of the team going to be? We're probably going to find this out, I'd assume, in a couple of days, because the signing period starts the 9th. So that's just a couple days away. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm kind of surprised. Like, with the thing with Melbourne, like, that was supposed to be, like, a thing. And apparently it was going to be announced. But I only did see one article about it. There's other ones, there was, like, multiple. So maybe that was just, like... Again, a lot of these teams were just starting out as rumors of joining the Overwatch League. Like, I think the only ones that are officially confirmed are Atlanta and Guangzhou right now. So any of these other ones could technically change. But, very, very interesting, to say the least. Washington, D.C., Vancouver, Hangzhou, and Chengdu are all teams in the Overwatch League. They're all new cities. I'm just, like, confused why they're adding so many teams from China. I mean, I guess there's the most people in the world living in China. And it is supposed to be a global league. But I don't know. So the other thing is, all these teams, it says the league will look to move its teams to the home regions by 2020. So the goal is by 2020, or the 3rd season of the Overwatch League, to have these teams playing in their home cities. So obviously right now, Los Angeles Valiant and Los Angeles Gladiators both play in their home city because Blizzard Arena is in Los Angeles. So the only team, it says right here, that has a venue selected is Los Angeles Valiant. They're going to have the Microsoft Theater in downtown Los Angeles. And the other thing is, a lot of these teams are owned by teams, other sports teams. So the Philadelphia Fusion are, Boston Uprising, New York Excelsior, Los Angeles Gladiators, like, they're all owned by owners of other sports teams. So Boston Uprising, I'm sure they can play somewhere around where the Patriots play, or the whatever the soccer team is in New England. And then the New York Excelsior, they're owned by the Mets, so I'm sure they can, or they're owned by the owner of the Mets, so I'm sure they can figure something out with that. I'm not really sure. It's a baseball stadium, but And then let's see, Philadelphia Fusion is owned by Comcast Spectre, which owns Philadelphia Fusion as well. So the Philadelphia Flyers, they play in an arena because they're a hockey team. And then, yeah, so we'll see. I think these owners are fine. We'll figure it out. But a lot of them already have things with sports teams. So we'll see. Yeah, 2020 will be interesting when all the teams play in their home cities. That'll be kind of crazy. Like, when teams, like, play across the world from each other. Like, if teams from America, especially from, like, this side of America. Because I've looked at trips to Korea and how long that is to fly, because it's pretty much the opposite side of the world. If you go, I'm not sure how exactly the opposite side of the world is, but like the time zones are like 12 hours, so it's like the opposite. Or it's like 11 or 13 hours, but it's like almost exact opposite. So I know, like, if New York Excelsior is going to play Seoul Dynasty, that's a long trip. Or if Seoul Dynasty is going to play Boston Uprising, that's a long trip. Or, you know, other ways are still a long way. London Spitfire, Los Angeles Gladiators, that's going to be a long trip. But, yeah, any teams, basically, if the European teams have to fly to America, fly to Asia, teams from Asia have to fly to America and Europe, it's still a long flight. It's already crazy flights when teams have to fly across the country to play each other. So to fly across the world to play each other, it's going to be wild. Very interested to see how they figure that out in the next season, going into season 3, or the 2020 season. But right now, focus on the 2019 season, and Atlanta, Washington DC, Toronto, Vancouver, Paris, Guangzhou, Hangzhou, and Chengdu, all joining the Overwatch League. So, we will see what these teams do in free agency in just a couple of days from now. But yeah, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you guys in the next one.